There's a lot in this gospel that we could reflect on, and single sentences alone are enough to suffice for our meditation and our reflection. I will pick out just a couple. Obviously, contained within Jesus' teaching is the golden rule. Love one another as I have loved you. But he turns that sort of on its head, really. Not just love those who love you, but love everyone, especially love your enemies, which would have pretty much gotten Jesus thrown out of any synagogue that he was in at the time. But that just wasn't how God's love was understood. It wasn't universal. It was specific, just to the Jews. But the part of the gospel that strikes me, that I think has much to say about how we conduct ourselves as Christians, reminds me of cooking and that measuring out. The measure you measure with will be measured out to you. No, there's two kinds of cooks in this world, those that follow a recipe and those that don't. And most of us, if we try it at all, at least begin with a recipe. And you just get very precise with the tablespoon and the teaspoon and the cup and everything, and which is good. Then it turns out. But if you get used to doing it, and it becomes almost second nature for you, you don't have to measure anymore. You just know, and you know how it feels. And I'm not much of a bread maker. Those of you who make bread, I envy you. Never been able to master that. But my grandmother was, I don't know, in this part of the world, we eat, at least in southern Indiana, where I'm from, we have dumplings. You know those, not the drop ones from Bisquick. No. They're rolled out and they're cut. And my grandmother could make those without a recipe. She could throw those together almost as fast as you could take box noodles out and throw them in water and cook them. And she did it almost every day, as her waistline indicated. She was a rather hefty lady. But she could do that without even thinking about it. She didn't have to measure. I think that's the goal for us as faithful Christians, is to get to the point where we don't have to measure. Loving others has become second nature. And if we get a little extra, well, then you put a little extra something else in and it all evens out. And we don't need to worry so much about, well, did I forgive that person too much, maybe? Have I loved that person too much? I don't know that that's ever possible, really. But when we're stingy and we hold back, or better yet, worse yet, rather, tell ourselves, well, somebody else can love them today. You know, the scouting is about doing a good turn every day. And I try and do that. And sometimes I'm not even conscious of the good turn. And sometimes I realize late in the afternoon, wow, I don't think I did a good turn today. In fact, I was kind of grouchy. And I was short-tempered with some people. And I did the opposite. And I have to be mindful of the need for contrition and to be sorry. And also to be mindful that as a priest, I begin almost every day with Mass and celebrating the Eucharist. That's the ultimate expression of God loving us without measurement, without measuring out. And the fullness of this, of the teaching today, it will press down and flowing over, and it will be poured into your lap, so much that you can't contain all of that mercy. It has to flow out of you into another person. That's what a Eucharistic-centered life is all about. And there's a generosity that comes with that to my experience cannot be replicated or improved upon by any other thing. I told you all earlier that I'm a convert to Catholicism. And I became a Catholic instantaneously. Now, I went through RCIA and almost a year. Now, they didn't call it RCIA back then. I had private instructions one-on-one with a priest for a year, every Wednesday afternoon. And I just couldn't wait to get through that catechism book because I knew when we got to the last chapter, we were done and I would be a Catholic. But I had never been to a church that was a sacramental church before. And every church I'd ever been to, and I'd been to a lot of them, there were some things that I found in common that fall short of this gospel, unfortunately. In almost every case, despite the gifts of the preacher's oratory skills and the amazing music in the church, you won't beat a Pentecostal band. I don't care how far you go. You just won't. But there were some things there that were always kind of off-putting to me. First of all, in order to see Jesus, you had to die first, or he would have to come back at the second coming. And I'm just too impatient for that. That just doesn't fit my personality. And secondly, when he was coming back, he was always angry, it seemed. I'm like, I don't know if I want him to come back. I don't know if I want to experience that. Because those two things always seem to go hand in hand. It was a future event, or I'd have to die first, or he's going to be mad. And then I went to Mass with the gentleman who would become my godfather, who was my dad's lifelong friend, his only lifelong friend. Dad had been raised a Catholic. He and Charlie went to grade school together. Dad got thrown out of Catholic high school, and that was kind of the end of his Catholic career. That's a whole other story. But when I went to Mass, first of all, those little, well, now I know they're kneelers. I thought this is really nice of this church to provide footrests for people. I thought that's really great. And he just Charlie said, don't worry, just do what everybody else does. And that's actually kind of been my best advice to people ever since, But about 2/3 of the way through the Mass, we're up and down as Catholics do. This minister, who I would come to know as a priest, held up this little round thing and said, "This is Jesus, the Lamb of God." And I became a believer immediately. I had never heard of transubstantiation. I didn't know anything about the real presence. I didn't hardly know any catechesis for that matter. But I knew in my heart of hearts, Jesus is right here. I don't have to wait to see him. My impatience has finally been answered by a patient God. And then I saw all those people go up and receive him, like I had watched countless people make altar calls in my young life. And I just thought, this is amazing. I don't know what these people got, but I want it. This is something I have never experienced before in my life. And there was within me a sense that there's just nothing better than the Eucharistic Christ. And that's why I'm a Catholic. Not because I'm a priest, not because I'm obsessed with the papacy or canon law, all the other stuff that goes along with our faith, but because of the Eucharist. That it all leads to that. It all flows to and it all flows out of that. And as a priest, there's just nothing more humbling than to be able to bring Christ to others in that way. So when Jesus himself in the gospel talks about the measure you measure with will be measured out to you, how much do you want? How much do you hope for of his love? A whole lot, I'm assuming. I need a lot of it. I don't want a tablespoon. I want gallons of it. then you better be ready to be that generous with other people as well. Because if you're stingy and you level off that teaspoon exactly flat, not one more grain of salt than just level, that's all you're going to get. It's called reciprocal justice, by the way. And in most cases, in my life at least, I have found I need a lot of forgiveness. I need a lot of love. I need a lot of mercy. Not just for myself, but so I can give it away to other people. So we are blessed to be able to come together tonight to celebrate the gift of Catholic Scouting that is centered in the Eucharist, that is centered in the Christ who gave all for each of us, that we can, in some small way or perhaps in even great heroic ways from time to time, give all to others in his name.